Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming tonight. Gracias todo el mundo para venir. I want to invite my Unification Task Force members to the front of the room. Unification Task Force members, paging all Unification Task Force members, if you could please join us at the front of the room, we would greatly appreciate your presence. And thank you everyone else that's here this evening in the house. Thank you for coming tonight. Really appreciate your presence, your energy. Good to see you. Thanks for coming.
What's going on?
On behalf of myself and the Unification Task Force members, Alina Monder, who's representing Willow Creek, Caroline Van Alst, and Deborah Turner, trustees from the Sausalito Marin City School District. Johanna Vandermalen, the other member of our task force, unfortunately was able to make it tonight, but she definitely gave some feedback, and thank you for all of your input on tonight's agenda and slide deck, all of you. We're looking forward to meeting this evening and meeting again soon this week, I believe. Yeah. I just really want to appreciate everyone that's here and all of the spirit and time and energy that's in the room. We are waiting for childcare provider. If you're here with children and you're looking for childcare, my apologies that it's not ready at the start of the meeting. There's some food in the back. If you haven't gotten food yet, it's provided by our local entrepreneurship partner, Vitality Bowls. This is a new business here in Marin City. A lot of wonderful smoothies and acai bowls and paninis there in the back. They've been really supportive, providing a nice healthy meal for the unification efforts. Is there anyone here that would like translation into Spanish? Tenemos traducción al español aquí disponible para ustedes. Si alguien se requiera. Viendo nadie. Gracias por estar de todos modos. Thank you for being here. We did commit to providing translation at the meetings, and it's nice to see that it's here. So if there's any members of the Spanish-speaking community that any of you know that you think should be a part of this, please invite them and let them know that we have translation. Thank you for your patience with our late start. I know that it was kind of crazy with traffic out there, and it's the holiday season, and we have kind of started these things a little bit late every time, just given wanting to make sure that all the people that are coming, we can still have people coming through the door, have the opportunity to arrive. So thank you for your patience with our start. And once again, welcome everyone on behalf of the Unification Task Force. I really can't say enough about the effort and the time that dozens of you are putting in to work groups. It is a testimony to the commitment and dedication towards unification that our whole community, all the 94965, is exhibiting. And I want to thank the folks that came to the board meeting last night, some Willow Creek parents and the Willow Creek board, for kind of restating the commitment to unification and for remaining in the space. Any community engagement process, any process that doesn't have super clear, parameters and other things can feel a little rocky. And I just want to appreciate everyone for leaning into that and remaining engaged, and I understand that. And we certainly hope to provide as much clarity and structure to the process as folks are looking for, and are really looking forward to your feedback on what you think that needs to be or what it might look like as part of the agenda tonight. I just wanted to start tonight with this Confucianism, so it's saying from Confucius, right? If your plan is for 1 year, plant rice. If your plan is for 10 years, plant trees. If your plan is for 100 years, educate children. And I just wanted to kind of ground the meeting tonight in the idea that that's why all of you are here. That's why all of you are so dedicated and continuously meeting in work groups and producing working reports, is that so that we have a better plan to educate all the children in the 94965. That we have and create a unified school that delivers higher achieving outcomes and opportunities for all kids in the 94965 than what either school is currently delivering. And I think it's important not to lose sight of that idea, because we can and we will, with all of your participation, do better. As I mentioned, we're just waiting for the childcare to arrive, so my apologies that it's not here. As soon as it comes, I'll flag anybody that needs childcare, and that will happen in the library. Please help yourself to some food if you haven't already. We don't want it to go to waste. Here's the agenda for tonight. As we're noticing, we're starting about a half an hour late, so I just ask everyone for some grace and maybe be able to expend the time to 8:30. We're really looking forward to your work group progress updates tonight. Also to what your needs are, themes, next steps, questions, and really identify any adjustments in the process and structure. Do we need more time? Do we need a third town hall? What do we need to make this work for everyone? As usual, I'll give you the opportunity to participate electronically. You can do so by cell phone, just a quick little tester. The way that you do that is you send a text message to the phone number 2233. 2233 is the phone number that you want to text to. I'm sorry, is that not what I said? 22333. Thank you. Thanks for the assist. And the message that you're going to write is my first and last name, Itoko Garcia 001. When you send that text message, it should text you back, and then you could choose A or B. And just for fun, someone choose B, so you know it's not a... No, it's functional. There we go. Thank you. If you can get on, if you've gotten a response, any of the other slides that look like this tonight, you'll be able to just interact with and answer right away. So again, I want to ground us in the vision. It's a really beautiful vision. It's a vision that was entered into voluntarily by both boards. It was a vision, both boards passed a resolution prior to actually the Attorney General settlement, the judgment being announced. Seems like a long time ago. A lot of stuff has happened since then. Remind everybody that we entered into this voluntarily. We shouldn't lose sight of that. It's important. Both boards, both communities said, we're going to be better off together. And we want to voluntarily work together. And together we can create something that is greater than the sum of its parts. Particularly the language from the resolutions is that we will work jointly and intend to improve the educational and social outcomes of all current and future students enrolled in our public schools. That both Sausalito Marin City School District and Willow Creek passed these resolutions prior. Sorry, that was a little redundant. But in particular, are committed to working together in this spirit. And we remain committed to working together in that spirit. We're committed to engaging all of you as stakeholders in a process that builds consensus around the best pathway for Willow Creek and Bayside MLK to create a unified school solution. And we're actively seeking your input and participation, parents, guardians, staff, community, students. At the end of this process, maybe we're starting to wind it down, maybe we'll extend it, but the point is, of all of your hard work, is to create some recommendations to the Board of Trustees, both boards. Willow Creek has an independent board, they get to make a decision too. It's not just the Sausalito Marin City School Board. These recommendations will go to both boards. Both boards will make a decision about how to proceed once this work is done, but that considers the advantages, disadvantages, issues, concerns, feasibility of a unified school solution. It's us. It's the folks in the room, students, staff, parents, administrators, and already engaged community partners. A lot of community partners. We appreciate all of your assistance and energy with both of the kids at both of our schools. It'll happen through work groups, through meetings like this, through reports, and in particular, through the really hard work of these folks. I do want to put out in the world that although we have had some challenges scheduling a meeting, sometimes like many of you, that there are many hours of meetings that the task force put in to get us to where we are today. A lot of pre-planning, weeks and weeks of multiple meetings, even before the first task force meeting. And so, while this is my job and I get paid, I want to remind folks that every board member that's on this task force, every board member that isn't on this task force but is just part of the Willow Creek Board or the Sausalito Marin City Board, these folks don't get paid. Yes, they're elected. Our board meeting last night went for 6 hours. Sorry, 7, right? Willow Creek must have had 5 meetings in the last, 10 days, 2 weeks, right? It's an amazing, incredible time commitment, energy commitment, spirit, passion. So when you see people's spirit and passion, I hope that you really receive it in the spirit in which it's given, which is that people care about kids and they're passionate about kids. And that's why these people give all of this time for free, is so that we can see better outcomes for our kids. We want to collaboratively develop a unification plan that engages all of you and builds consensus, since that's what's most likely to be successful. And I just want to reiterate, nothing's been decided. As I mentioned, we initially planned this process to be open and organic because we didn't actually want to bias things in one direction or another. And so sometimes that can be, a little frustrating not to have parameters and all that, but that's what an organic process means. It means you come together and you figure it out together, and those things are inherently a little messy. But we still have yet to decide anything. As I said, we want to unify into a single school. We want to build consensus. We want to seek input. We may consult with other local public boards and agencies with the specific idea of outlining all the potential options for a single school solution, along with any related findings, proposals, recommendations, or considerations. And so some of you might wonder where we are. Now, there is a scope and sequence document that was posted way back when at the first town hall. I'll make sure it's reposted. This is a little bit of an update, but I just want to kind of give you an idea of where we are specifically. All right, we had our second town hall on the 2nd of December. A lot of people came, a lot of great energy that night. The task force was able to meet for a little while during that meeting. Not as long as we needed or we would have liked, but we did come together that night. The board meeting, we had to move our board meeting, and we had to cancel our board workshop. But we were able to get updates from everybody from the town hall meeting the week before. And here you see this week. You're here, many of you are here. I've already gotten a lot of emails too from folks that couldn't make it. but that sent me a report anyway. We've been meeting, we want you to have it, here you go. But this is the purpose of this meeting, is to share your draft final reports and findings in the template that we put out. And we want to get more community feedback, like I said. What else needs to happen and make this a tight process for everyone? It is our hope as a Unification Task Force to finalize the survey that we've been working on by the end of this week. We'll build consensus around the items, get a link, and send it out to the community by Monday. Since it's Christmas break, I have to make a slightly adjusted plan to get it to students. But that's okay. I think it can wait for that first week of school when we get back. We do really want to survey kids at both schools. It has always been our plan to center the voice of youth. So the kids that are in the room tonight, thank you for being here, and we want to invite you to fully participate and stay. Yeah, we can clap for that. That's all right. It's good to have the kids here. I think a lot of times we get wrapped up and think we're building a school for ourselves. We're not building a school for ourselves. We're building a school for kids. Kids that are here, the kids that are coming. We have to keep that at the center of our work. As I said, we want to schedule a date after Christmas and before New Year's with both school leaders to administer that student survey. And then I know I will be working over the break. I trust that Steve sent out some meeting dates to see if you are available at all to work over the break. I do think a lot of this can also be done electronically. We might have to do it all in person, but I think it's important that the Unification Task Force actually works on synthesizing all the reports that are going to come out tonight and identifying, if there's a work group or three that didn't turn in a report, like what kind of support do they need, what else do they need, so that we can get it done. We'll try to send that out the following week to all the work groups. After we've synthesized your work, we actually want to know that we got it right from you. So we'll send it back to you and say, hey, is this what you're saying? Is this what you mean? Did we get it right? And you'll have a chance to say yes or no, or maybe, or you missed this thing over here, it should really be in there. This is your work. We want to make sure that we represent it fully. Hopefully, after that round of feedback, we can finalize the report by the 2nd of January and send it out to the world on the 3rd, unless we make some other decisions tonight that we want to hold off on that for a little while. And that's okay too. But we still have a chance to meet this timeline. Our original goal was to share the final report and findings at the January 9th Board of Trustees meetings. And if we work hard over the next few weeks, we can still do that. Or, like I said, we can give ourselves some grace and we can add some time into the process if that's what everybody feels like it needs. Totally open to that. We have heard loud and clear from a large segment of the community that the issue of getting a report done in this time frame is so that people have a clear picture of what next year can look like and what the next few years can look like. So people can make an informed decision about school choice, about where to send kids, where to not send kids. And I just want to reiterate, that's the only reason that we've been in a hurry to get a report. We want to be responsive to that. After the first town hall meeting, a few parents came up to me and said, hey, I don't want to wait 3 years. What we're imagining sounds like an amazing school, and my kid's in the 5th or 6th grade, and it would be really cool if they got to attend this school instead of just imagine it. And so that's part of the other reason that we've been on such a tight timeline. So we want to try to deliver something for this whole community that people can access. But again, if we need more time, we need to build more time into the process, that's what we'll do. And so that's what you see there on those last bullets. Do we need to expand the timeline? Do we need another add another town hall? Do we need to add another survey window? I really want to encourage all of you to spend a little bit of time thinking about what you need tonight to make this a fully rewarding process for everyone. There is an FAQ document. It's hard copy, it's there on the table if you want it. We update it after every meeting. I am glad to say there weren't a lot of extra additional questions after the last meeting. Didn't have to do a major update. The one thing that we're waiting is a legal memo. I was working and hoping really hard that it was going to be here for all of you tonight to inform some of the work groups, in particular facilities, in particular transportation. I want to thank you for your patience. I know you've been like hanging out and been like, well, you know, we need this information to move forward. We get it. Sometimes attorneys take a long time to do some things, and we want to make sure that when we put it in your hands, it is exactly what you need to get your work done. I do expect to see it real soon, this week even, so hopefully that'll help. And I'm sorry that it's not here tonight. Much has been made of insolvency for Willow Creek, and I want to thank Kurt for coming out last night and giving some really positive feedback on where we are with those talks. I've experienced them positively as well. We're scheduled to meet again this Friday for all of you that are interested to know. And that plan includes making sure that we don't bill Willow Creek before there's a cash dispersal to make sure they're fiscally solvent for the remainder of this year. We're going to get into some nitty-gritty around some facilities agreements and talk about how we can reduce expenditures that are related to facilities for Willow Creek. That's a big expense. We see that, we know that. We want to make sure that the school stays stable, and that's one way that we can really reduce their expenditures. And we're having some like amazingly exciting conversations about where and how we can share positions. And so I just wanted to reiterate to that tonight. It's kind of been out there in the public record, but we had a really good meeting last night that kind of both Kurt and I were able to double down on this idea, and I'm excited that I'll be meeting with him and Emily on Friday to continue that. A little different version of a timeline. Just kind of see everything I laid out in the scope and sequence. Similar questions. What else do we need? What else do we need to add? What else do we need to refine in this process? Again, the kind of overall timeline. We do need to have a draft comprehensive education plan to the Attorney General and the Monitor. A lot of the expediency that we've had in this process, that's what's been referenced, but I do want to reiterate that's a part of it, but that's not the whole it. We've heard from a lot of folks. We need a clear plan, and we need it soon, because folks make school choices in January. And so we're really committed to doing that. And we're also committed for all of the work groups and all the reports to really drive that comprehensive education plan and ultimately the district's LCAP. It is my full intent for the local control accountability plan that we publish to the county and the state to be a local control accountability plan for a unified school. And that's why we need your reports and your energy and your engagement ongoing throughout this process. Just want to remind everyone very quickly that as we work tonight, as we talk, sometimes we can get a little emotional, and that's okay. I actually view it as passion. Passion's not a bad thing. Sometimes it helps to regulate our emotion, just to help communicate clearly and those kind of things. And one of the best tools that we have at our disposal to regulate our emotion is breathing. Not just any kind of breathing, but in particular, breathing in a ratio. Inhaling for a count of 8, exhaling for a count of 4. And so I just want to invite everybody, I'm going to strike my chime one time. I'm going to invite you to take 3 deep breaths with me. And if you start to feel emotional tonight, stop, take a breath, so you can lean into this critically important work, groundbreaking work that can create a school that is an example for this entire country about what education can and should be, diverse education can and should be. So I'm going to strike this chime one time. I'm going to ask you to breathe with me 3 times on that ratio. And when I strike the chime a second time, we'll come back. Thank you. So just want to remind everybody to lean into the work tonight in the spirit of consensus building, collaboration, and community engagement, particularly focusing on civil discourse and equity of voice. Find yourself in a space or a table where you're not finding equity of voice or you're not finding civil discourse, just want to invite you to breathe. You can also wave any of the members of the Unification Task Force over. We'll be happy to come and support your conversation. So, one thing that's been asked is a little bit more clarity on how this works, or what the plan is, right? And the idea is that the work groups are representative of parents, students, staff, and the community at large. And you're here representing the community in the unification process. And our unification committee, Willow Creek's unification committee, that makes up the unification task force, are here to represent both boards in the process and really receive your recommendations, synthesize those work group reports, and give the final recommendations to our respective boards. So I hope that helps a little bit elucidate the structure and the how of what folks have been doing, what you will be doing. Quick reminder, we have facilities, curriculum, transportation, process, staffing, culture and climate, philanthropy, fundraising, fiscal integrity and transparency, and students. This is a full commitment of students from Tam High to be here tonight to work with your kids. I got a message late in the afternoon saying, it's finals week. We're so sorry. We can't make it. They did commit to come back and work with our kids in different spaces, though. And they remain fully committed to this process. And having been a student for, I don't know, about 36 odd years of my life, I can resonate with that space. Takes a long time to get a doctorate in education, turns out. So, what have you been doing? Why have you been doing it? Each work group was designed to represent the community on a specific topic that is of particular interest or an area of expertise to an individual community member. You were tasked with creating a meeting calendar, completing a team charter, choosing roles, and you're still tasked with developing a set of recommendations for unified school based on your specific topic or area of focus. After meeting, each work group is expected to produce a report for the Unification Task Force based on your meetings that outlines your final recommendations and other considerations. Please, all of you, many of you have already, send them to unification@smcsd.org. I'll make sure I post them in the shared work group folder so all of you can see each other's work too. And I'll make sure I forward them to all of our task force members so that we can work on that synthesis. And as I've said, we'll draft that final report, send it back to you for your review. And after a final round of work group input, we'll finalize it and present it to both boards and to the world. So a couple questions that I want you to answer tonight. Was there work group consensus on your report? Or did you end up in a situation as a Lone Ranger writing it yourself because you wanted to have something tonight? It's important for us to know that. Please share your report. Please identify what you might still need from us. Please try to limit your sharing to 5 minutes. I know people have met dozens of times and done a ton of work and you want to share everything. I want to invite us, for the sake of parsimony this evening, just stick really tightly to your final recommendations and any other major considerations that you want us to know. That way I have a chance to get y'all out of here by 8:30. Also, if you have any recommendations for the structure or process of unification moving forward, we want to hear them. We're going to meet. We're going to talk about what next steps are. Remember, this is an organic process. That means none of it's set in stone. We can change. If there's a brilliant idea that we haven't thought of, that's why all of you are here. 50 heads are better than 5. One thing, too, I want to just put out into the world. I had a bunch of people come up to me after the last and say, hey, I really like my work group. We started having dinner together, started doing other things. Can we still meet after we submit the final report, or do we have to stop? And I said, well, that's an interesting question. We actually didn't consider that as a unification task force, right? We, as both of our committees said, hey, we have a final date and we're going to dissolve. That's how committees have to work for the Brown Act, just so you know. It's not because we don't want to keep meeting per se, but you have to have a finite timeline for an ad hoc committee to remain in compliance with the Brown Act in the state of California. But guess what? You all are not elected officials and you do not have to comply with the Brown Act. And that means, indeed, if the Spirit moves you, I want to invite you to continue to meet. We may make a decision that we need to extend anyway and ask all of you to continue to meet. But even if you have like the most comprehensive final report and you don't feel like you need to add a period or a comma or cross an I or dot a T, if your group wants to continue to meet, I want to invite you to continue to meet. I want to invite you, once we put a plan forward and it's got some benchmarks and we've all agreed to take some actions, to continue to meet and say, are y'all doing what you said you were going to do? Because that's what public accountability looks like. And I believe that that's what all of us are committed to. I believe that's why all these board members took on their position of board members. I know that that's my job as a superintendent, is to remain accountable publicly to all of you. That's what the Brown Act requires of us. But I think that I can say confidently in working with these folks, they're committed to that, not because that's what the law says, but that's because who they are as human beings. And I hope that everybody experiences me that way too, even though it's my job. And so I think the easy answer to that last question is yes. I want to invite you to continue to meet and inform both of our boards and inform both of our communities and hold us accountable for what we say we're going to do. So, I want to invite you at this time to break into work groups. Don't everybody move at once. Maybe you've already organized yourself that way. It's quite possible. And I'm going to turn the mic over. I'm mostly done talking for tonight. Thanks for entertaining my monologue. We want to hear from you. Again, the only facilitation I'll do is at 5 minutes. You'll hear me strike a chime to let you know that it's 5 minutes and that maybe it's time to pass the mic.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can I get a big round of applause for her courage, for her going first, for her kicking this off?
Okay. All right. Ooh, I just got blinded. Okay. Well, Ilana is passing out a few of our reports. Hopefully you guys can share. My name is Claudine Alameda, and I'm representing the Fundraising and Philanthropy Unification Work Group. I'm happy to say that we were able to meet several times and come up with this recommendation report. And I think, frankly, a lot of us thought this was the beginning of a long relationship. And in fact, we've already started to engage and, initiate some of our work streams. So I fully anticipate my team members, which I'm getting to know, we're going to carry on. Major findings. The work group agrees that the overarching goal of this committee is to create a working vision for, document, and deliver. Oh, got it. Repeat. Okay, hopefully this is better. The work group agrees that the overarching goal of this committee is to create a working vision for, document, and deliver a fundraising strategy with tactics for the period leading up to and beyond the unification of Bayside Martin Luther King Jr. Academy and Willow Creek Academy. And the work group, is starting to engage and will continue to engage in efforts supporting the needs and opportunities for both schools, particularly as they relate to the needs of the whole child. And it's in the community's best interest to ensure that both schools are offering excellent learning environments for all of our children leading up to the unification. Willow Creek Academy's fundraising strategy will continue to focus on immediate needs up to the unification process. Now, some of you don't have the picture, but I think a picture paints 1,000 words. We have an arrow that represents a timeline, which is the path to unification. And on the left-hand side of the timeline is today. And, a lot of our focus will probably be on Willow Creek Academy, helping them with their immediate needs to fill their shortfall in funding. But at the same time, we are going to focus on joint fundraising opportunities, starting to carve out those strategies and then eventually engage on those and carry them forward. Somewhere in the middle of the timeline, we have, hopefully, the Willow Creek funding shortfall addressed. And, we will actually have a new school entity, a new name for our school, a new bank account for us to put money into, and we'll actually engage in some of these activities for the joint school entity. And then at the right-hand side of the timeline is Unification Day. And it's at that time that we anticipate all fundraising efforts be fully merged, as well as both foundations, Willow Creek as well as BMLOK, those foundations will fully merge. Okay, still have time, right? Okay, so I really want to quickly go through our 5 major work streams we've identified for focal areas of fundraising. And these are based on previous efforts, but also will be applied to unification. First, philanthropy through direct donations. We have the Arts Plus Bayside MLK Junior Foundation donations, through major donors as well as parental donors. That is the same as on the Willow Creek side, through Willow Creek Foundation, the SMART Fund. And it's the suggestion that the work group engage and assist in making calls for new donations, for this entity. We also have, general public donations through social media campaigns. I don't know if you've seen the new video that has gone out for Willow Creek. And we fully want to do the same for the unification group. We want to create a new video for unification. Second work stream, philanthropy through grants and foundations. We also have, Bayside has income from foundations such as the Marin Community Foundation. They have federal funding. Willow Creek also has income from foundations. Again, we want to help and bolster these efforts. Number 3, philanthropy through crowdsourcing. Think Kickstarter campaigns. I don't know, so far as I know, Bayside MLK has not done this. We can identify these campaigns. And a lot of these might come from what you guys will recommend today, in terms of facilities or curriculum. If we do want a dual language, right? A dual language school, let's identify what that will take. What's the dollar amount we want to target and get a Kickstarter started. Number 4, fundraising through events. I was so excited to hear about the Arts Plus Bayside MLK Junior Art fundraiser, where they actually sell student artwork. And community artists, they donate their artwork for auction. That is fabulous. That is precisely something that we want to carry on and carry forward. On the Willow Creek, we have various events such as the Fun Run, the Spring Benefit. Both sides have theater events. We want to carry all of these forward and bolster these efforts. Now, some of the new things that we've thought of are a fundraising concert. Having a big ticket item, a big ticket musician, smaller musicians come together, put a big show on. Things like talent shows. Again, something new. Finally, one more work stream are passive donations through shopping and dining. We definitely want to carry that on and also relay that those setup processes to BMLK now so they can get started on those as well. As a final note, bear with me, please. Okay. As a final note, I just want to say that, we did think about a unified foundation, and this actually came up in one of the earlier meetings, a working name idea called UNO Foundation. United Nosotros are one, meaning united we are one. And, this is up for discussion, but something that we can, carry forward possibly. Finally, I just want to say that the team is actively engaged through time, motivation, and resources to assist with existing and launch new fundraising campaigns that support academic enrichment and, again, the whole child. And we're excited and hopeful to see that these recommendations are not just a draft strategy, but also, these are current efforts to create the psychological safety that's vital for this unification process. Anyway, we do want to open our arms. If you know anyone or if you yourself want to join in on the fundraising efforts, we are not disbanding. We are going to carry forward. Please contact one of us. We're in that far group over there. We've got Barbara Killey. We've got Alana Rosen. We have Nora Stratton. We've got several other members as well. Terry Green. I saw Terry over here. Please come and talk to us. We want you to join our efforts. Thank you, and thanks for the extra time.
No? Who's next? Come on down. What other work was ready? Fabulous job. Philanthropy. Curriculum for the children. Let's give curriculum for the children a big round of applause.
We had consensus. I think that's important.
One side note. The fundraising group also wanted to add to their report that they had consensus on their report.
Here we are.
Okay.
We present right here. Yeah.
No.
Give it up, give it up, give it up! Yes, bring some energy! Clap it up, y'all!
So, we are the curriculum committee, representing curriculum for the children. And we'd like for our committee members to please stand up.
Miss Laura Cox,
Cynthia Williams, David Fanan,
Nathan Scripps,
Florence Williams,
Glenda Gentry.
Victoria Joy.
I am Jenny Schmidt,
I am LeSean Holcomb.
and I am Oshala Diana Marcus, aka Miss D.
Yes! Give it up! We practice, y'all.
Our introduction.
We recommend the following 6 pillars that uphold and support
Top-tier academics. Foundational knowledge contained in these pillars is taught through the lens of
Project-based education and arts integration.
yes, clap it up.
Next slide, please. Thank you. So these are the 6 pillars that hold up the roof of the top-tier academics. Next slide. Yeah. And we present the first pillar, Indigenous Wisdom and Climate Justice. This pillar upholds the wisdom of Indigenous people and supports their ongoing struggles for thriving into the future, including ancient strategies that address climate change.
Global connectedness.
This pillar supports the reality that our students live in globally connected social and economic systems, and that school curriculum should serve to deepen their understanding of those systems.
Yes, clap it up. The arts.
The arts.
Yes. You want to say it too?
The arts.
Yes. See, this pillar upholds the teaching of a dynamic, culturally relevant arts program, including arts education integration program that brings curriculum to life.
That's right. Technology and the technical arts.
Yes. This pillar supports study and training in specific technical arts, including STEM technologies that prepare students with the knowledge and skills needed for entry into in-demand careers.
Okay. And our next pillar is social justice and healing. This pillar upholds the need to wisely and compassionately address social injustices of the past and present to co-create a future where those injustices are no longer repeated. This pillar supports diversity as a beginning to address equity and inclusion. Cultural studies. This pillar supports teaching our students what it means to be human and how we are interconnected with other humans by our actions and our choices across families, communities, societies, and our shared planet. This pillar supports a culturally relevant curriculum. Conclusion.
We trust that our proposed pillars in the area of curriculum positively support the larger conversation towards a unified school district.
Yes, and we also believe these pillars uphold a strong program that best serves all students as they discover new strengths and potential within a unified school district.
So we ask that our administrators, that our teachers, that our staff keep the students, parents, and community in mind and informed as our recommendations turn into action plans leading toward positive outcomes. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much. Curriculum. We are Curriculum for the Children. Come on, Curriculum for the Children. Stand up. Get some love. Miss Florence, Ann Lay, Cynthia
Fabulous
Williams,
work.
Linda Gentry. Come on down. Nathan Scripps.
Really beautiful. Thank you. So who wants to follow that act? Who else do we have tonight? Thank you. Thank you, Marika, for that courageous offer. Here you go.
I figured I'd put something like that up with a really short little thing. Because our facilities group is sort of, it's slow to launch, but very committed. We came out of the gate real fast, and then we realized we had to slow down because we didn't have information like that, right? So that's what we're waiting for. Our job is to support the curricular vision, the organizational vision, the structure. And so now that we're sort of getting those, we feel confident that we can come up with the real guiding principles for moving forward. We're happy that there's now a facility master plan team on board who's going to help us sort of deal with some of the tough issues of what can these facilities support, what do they need, how can they accommodate these new programs, what do we need to build new. So all of that stuff is coming, but what we really need to do is sort of frame the baseline need and layer in all of the important curricular vision that we have, socio-emotional, what the cultural climate of the school is going to be, and obviously organizational structure. So all those things are informing our work. So we sort of started a little late for that reason, but that doesn't mean that we're not committed and ready to go now that I think that we've got a lot of the key ingredients. So that's where we're at. We can commit to guiding principles by January, I think. It'll look a little bit like the pillars with some facilities suggestions, but we're looking forward to meeting with the facilities master planning team.
Thank you, Facilities Work Group. We got culture. Who we got next? Culture and climate. Who got? Transportation, culture and climate. Transportation. Here you go, transportation. Transport us to a unified dimension.
I'll be quick, I promise. My name's Kirsten Thomas, and on behalf of myself and Tricia Wigg here today, we're representing the Transportation Working Group. Our other members are Jennifer Conway, Stephanie Robeson, Dr. Shirley Thornton, Thomas Storm, and Diane Brocob. And so I just want to give you a sense of some of the activities we've completed to date. We've had 2 live working group meetings, numerous email exchanges, and I'm proud to say that we've had 4 of our task members attend the Courageous Conversations to date, and that was our team's focus in this past week. We've completed a number of interviews with folks such as from the San Rafael School District, Marin Transit, and Marin Safe Routes to Schools to gather information and find out what is working and what other districts are doing. We began progress, and we have a draft vision statement that I'll read to you here. And I think we've had a lot of consensus around this and some of our recommendations here. Our draft vision is that we are committed to every K through 8 student in Sausalito and Marin City getting to and from school in a way that is safe, reliable, and environmentally conscious, so that families are confident in a great start to their day. So some of the considerations and recommendations that we want to present and offer to the Unification Board. We have done much research on available transportation options. We did feel a pretty strong interdependency with the facilities group, so I was kind of waiting for them to go first tonight before we did, so thank you. I think we'd like to get together with you or send a member to your next meeting. We really discussed and felt we had a commitment to what is working now to support kids getting to school, because we are currently getting almost 500 kids to school. And we talked about green options, walking, biking, carpooling, and vehicle sharing. We also, assuming that one campus may be used as an elementary school and the other as a middle school, we want to consider staggered start times for the schools, and that will allow, if we do put budget into a vehicle, it would allow it to be used for as many kids as possible, as well as support older siblings who might be helping younger siblings get to school. We also discussed doing a survey with parents as a way of understanding barriers once we've narrowed down to a smaller solution set. We will submit this report and all of our notes to the task force. A couple things that would be really helpful, besides the learning more about what the facilities group is considering, is potentially some budget guidance, as well as enrollment by school number of kids by school, current school, grade, and city of residence, or even possibly neighborhood, so that we can map out how many kids we may be needing to get to and from where exactly. And if you have a passion around transportation, you can join us too. Thank you.
Thank you, transportation. We really appreciate that, and I will make sure that I do my best to respond to those information requests as well, so that you have what you need to continue to move forward. Culture and climate. Let's give a big round of applause for culture and climate. Everybody, don't lose your energy.
Okay. Greetings. We had a phenomenal team, but one of the persons who worked so dutifully to promulgate this was not able to be present, and that's Ms. Lisa Bennett. And so I just volunteered to present some of our findings. But prior to sharing that, I have to acknowledge and share reverence for all of those phenomenal minds who collaborated in manifesting this. So for all of you all who were instrumental in this, please raise your hands and be acknowledged at this juncture. Okay, so we came together delayed, but yet with a combustion, being cognizant that we have the fortitude in this season to generate something that could be transformative. So we wanted to slow down a little bit and really hone in on the kids who are going to be a part of this process and have them to be surveyed and postured to be able to share what type of arts do they want to see transpire in their school setting, what language is most ideal for them to be able to be communicated within, and etc. This wise person, Ricardo, right here, was really one who was an advocate for the profound power of the arts. With there being visual aids that will reflect on the campus what we encompass, and this aspiration to become holistically unified, not just a verbalization, but something that comes to manifest in spirit. Another key point that was brought forth was that, teachers seek to do phenomenal things, but we take our whole being into teaching, even though there may be some things deeply embedded in our being that we dwell oblivious to, like how we attribute a child's behavior. So honoring that sometimes, and in spite of our good intentions, our perceptions can cause us to condemn a child because of how we perceive things. We know that there will be a great need to have a site equity action team who kind of pops in periodically with love to just observe and assess and make recommendations to ensure that when children are being not reprimanded but redirected, it is hinged in something over and beyond our own embedded psychological issues that even we as teachers sometimes possess. We also recognize that there is a profuse need to have more teachers of color present, and to launch a very strategic campaign to allow for that to be able to ensue. Whereas there will be like housing opportunities to be reflected in the campaign to get persons of color to come and teach. Some of our other recommendations were dealing with, instead of having a curriculum that is so much emphasis on the basic fundamentals of, math and sciences, which are really and truly very important, but to focus on children's gifts, their innate talents being able to be made transparent, that builds onto one's self-concept, vocation, where their gifts can actually help address a need in the world, where you may have like school service, if you will, where a project where a child can take their gifts and use it again to have the pride that comes from adding meaningfully on to their institution of higher learning. Also, when you deal with unification, we wanted to deal with truth. Like for instance, we have Thanksgiving. Many of us are fully cognizant that Thanksgiving is tied to a heinous act. So while it is a phenomenal thing that does manifest to collaborate as family, it is still something that was not the best that commenced. So having a school of truthfulness, my paper's scattered, but I'll move on. It's okay. We can be impromptu, amen? And so honoring that truthfulness and having cultural competency, where every group is empowered by having knowledge, true knowledge, not imposed knowledge, but authentic knowledge of who you are and the greatness inherent within you for all cultures. Very much so. And we also dealt with the need for grounding in the morning. How many of you guys cannot function without your morning coffee? And when you drive, you have attitudes and you be grumpy, right? And you don't run without stretching, right? So the profuse need for our kids' minds to be stretched before going the mile, by being grounded in affirmation and also some exercise prior to teaching them, being cognizant of how we are naturally wired as human beings and honoring it and the way in which we educate our children to allow for them to be postured to flourish. Also, one last thing is, if we're going to be one unified body, we can wear uniforms, but maybe each child could wear their own brand to help inoculate bully, because they're so fulfilled and confident in who they are and their purpose, they're not bullying on anyone else. Because psychology says when someone has a negative epidemic to commence, they're more prone to demean someone else. We also dealt with the need for having mandated electives, dealing with social psychology, maybe world relationships or religion, to deal with the kids' psychological reality. Because in this climate, kids are committing suicide and we're having massacres. So if kids are taught nonverbal communication, other various things, it can help address other things that we are suffering from, and being taught into a greater, higher energy of mindfulness in that particular climate. We want to continue this campaign collectively to make school to be a space where our children are cultivated to be critical thinkers and to eradicate things that plague this world. We thank you for your time.
All right. Culture and climate. Moving as always. You can try. You're going to give it a try. Thank you for giving it a try.
No problem. All right, so I'm a part of the staffing committee. I also work in the school, so I think it's really important to know who's in the building. So the staffing work group is committed to supporting teachers, classified staff, administrators, and all other personnel at schools in this unification process. We recognize that this is a time of uncertainty and want to affirm our commitment to the importance of staff who provide education and support for our children. We have identified the following common core principles. So we have about 10 of them. It is essential that teachers, staff, and administration at all levels represent the diversity within our community. Thank you. So we support efforts to reach out to university colleges to recruit more teachers of color and affirm the value of all types of diversity throughout our district. Counselors and instructional aides are critical to support our students and enable teachers to concentrate their efforts on education. Sometimes I think it's common we ask too much of our teachers. So this is support staff that can help them key in and lock in on what they do best, which is teach kids. Excellent instructional specialists, support for those with learning differences, also essential to support our children and teachers. Obviously, kids learn in different ways, and so we have to find different ways to support those kids, rather than them feeling alienated and walk away from education. Professional development. If you're not getting better, you're getting worse, is a general principle in life. So I think it's essential for all staff. We think it's essential for all staff. Education around equality and inclusion needs to be mandatory. Kids need to feel welcome in the classroom, so we have to create an inclusive classroom so all voices, all backgrounds are welcome and feel comfortable to learn. Continuing education, teaching methods, development in one's professional field and education is also crucial to ensure a high-performing school. So again, if you're teaching math, you need to get better at teaching math. This is probably throughout Northern California, but we should explore opportunities for low-cost housing for teachers to encourage recruitment and retention. If you're paid and you can't live here, that's a problem. Or if you have a 2-hour commute to get to school and go back, that's a problem because it takes away from what you want to do, which is support kids. Lesson plan. The community school service begun at Bayside MLK should be maintained and expanded to support the children and families. By diminishing stresses in children's lives, we increase their ability to learn and thus support our staff. So we do have to support families. That's part of education, I feel, and it helps settle kids when they walk into the building. If they're thinking about this thing and the other, then that takes away from their educational experience. Teachers should have sufficient time for development, collaboration, and opportunities to prepare classes that are innovative and meet the needs of our students. So I would just generally say teachers shouldn't be overwhelmed with workload. If you're stretching teachers too thin, that takes away, again, from what they want to do best is educate children. So finding ways to support them and to do that. Thank you. Make sure I don't miss any. Oh, lastly, just part of this process, we encourage development of a questionnaire for teachers and other staff at both schools. So what are the needs? What are you doing well? What needs to improve at your specific school? So when we create one, we're working on improving. So we don't want to have the same issues moving forward. So how can we take care of them? Recognize our strengths, get better at those, recognize our weaknesses, and build on those. We have a whole bunch of questions that may be on the questionnaire. What most excites you about the unification? What are you concerned about? How might those concerns be addressed? What do you think are strengths at your school that you work at now? What do you think you could do better? What makes your job better? Why do you come back? Why may you want to leave? What professional development have you found most helpful? What additional professional development would you like? How can we make the best possible school for our students? I think it's important. Ultimately, I think we all have the same goal. If we're going to unify the schools, we want them to be great schools. We want to have our kids have the best opportunity to grow as young people in the world. It's a very polarizing world as we speak and as we stand. So we need to create strong leaders, and some of that is us being leaders ourselves. There we go. Thank you. Yep.
I know the U stands for university, but tonight it stands for unity. So thank you for urban. Sorry, I know the U stands for urban, but tonight it stands for unity. So thank you for putting the U in our unification. Is there anybody else that I have overlooked? Oh yes, sir. Fit Tag. Let's give it up for Fit Tag. That stands for Fiscal Integrity, Transparency, Accountability Group.
We're the least entertaining group. Sorry.
We are representing the group, but the group is actually comprised of 5 members. Nuri, are you here? No. Okay, 5 members, 3 of whom couldn't make it tonight, but 5 members who were really dedicated to make this work. Teachers and community members in our group. We've been meeting at least weekly for the last couple of months, so we've been working hard. Maybe I should get LaShawn to come up and give this presentation. Finance is a pretty dull subject. Okay, we set 4 goals that we wanted to accomplish. And the first one was get Willow Creek to unification, period. Find a way to get them there because of, can you hold that for me? Yeah. The microphone, no, here, hold that. That's the problem with Parkinson's. It's a very difficult presentation. So, thank you. So our first goal was to get them through to unification, and by that we mean get the finances to support that. The second goal was to publish the financial information in a very simple and easy to understand way so that everybody can have access to finance. And it's not that way right now.
It is a work in progress, however.
Yes, it is. Eliminate what I call FFF, which is fake financial figures. We're going to ask that everybody vet financial information before they quote it in a public meeting or in public press. I don't need to tell everybody how much that irritates many of us. We also are recommending something be done for fixing our facilities. And of course, that needs money. And so there's no doubt that we're going to have to examine the possibility of a bond or some other method of raising significant amounts of money in order to make facilities that will work. Okay, what have we done so far? Well, one thing we've done is we have worked like crazy on budgets from each of the two schools. And we really understand that information much better now, but they keep moving the goalposts. How can we kick a field goal when every day we get a new set of numbers? So there's been a lot of changes and it's been hard to track, but we're not giving up and we will find a way to get that done.
I want to make a quick plug on that last point. It has been challenging, obviously, but we absolutely respect the challenge that the financial professionals that are working on this at the higher level have exerted and the amount of time they've spent with us, for which we are grateful. Otherwise, we would have had absolutely no ability to understand all of this.
Yes, that's true. Now, one other thing we did is we came up with what we call a ground rule or a policy even. And that is, as we look at each situation where a decision needs to be made, view it through the lens of a unified school. In other words, picture the unified school now and look at the decisions you have to make. And there's a lot of things, as we go through some cost cutting, which we're going to have to do, there's a lot of things that if we look at both sides and we look at how the unified school is going to be, it'll change our decision for the better. Now, it turns out that there are some things that we wish we had a unified school before. Because if you look at some of the decisions that we've made, we have spent over $500,000 on legal fees in the last 2 years. Now, as a unified school, that's wasted money. There's no point in having a lawsuit in a unified school. So if we'd been thinking that, we probably wouldn't have ended up there. So what we need to do now is to stop as much as possible any legal or any other outside companies or people who want our money. Let's keep it in-house and solve these problems. Now, if you think about the $500,000 on legal fees, that's $500,000 taken away from the kids, the teachers, and the staff. And we can't get it back if we've already spent it. So let's not make decisions that go against unification and keep the money here.
Included in that is also a comment with respect to hiring third parties unnecessarily so, consultants, etc. We just want to encourage financial responsibility because it's something that affects all of us, and we shouldn't lose sight of, while we're all here, what we're trying to accomplish, and not waste money that could be better used elsewhere for the children.
We're not done yet by any means, and we're not going to give up until we are done, until we accomplish these goals. Is there anyone else who wants to get up here? Itoko?
Ain't getting off that easy. My name is Ricardo. I'm run Isoji, which is a social activist group, and we meet Friday of every month. So anybody who wants to have some interaction with groups from outside, activists all over the county, come to Isoji the first Friday of every month, 11 to 1, and we feed you good food. But the thing that I want to emphasize is arts. I want to talk a little bit just about arts because most people have a kind of like, when you say art, they always think about maybe fine arts, and they might throw in a couple of other things along with it. But the spectrum of arts includes everything from visual, graphics, culinary arts, to environmental arts, performance arts, graphics, did I say that? Graphic arts? Okay. But the point being, there are a myriad of health attributes associated with arts. And my standard saying is there are 26 health benefits to just dancing. People don't know that. Journaling has sent many children to college through self-expression, and culinary art has created many jobs and things like that. Not only that, but it changes the way you think, it changes the climate within the community, and if we're talking about climate, if you walk into a building, you see arts like you see here, it automatically sets up a feeling about where you are, what's going on in that building, and it changes the climate of communications. So what I wanted to suggest that our climate and culture group meets with the curriculum group so we can come up with a really powerful statement about the use of arts.
Let's do it.
Everybody, please give yourselves a big round of applause. Thank you for all of your hard work, your dedication. Just want to make sure that there's no other work group that wants to or is ready to report out at this point in time. Show window of opportunity closing. I got one. Last.
I just want to comment. So the culture curriculum committee I represented met with the Culture and Climate Committee to see if there were intersections of concerns. And I know that when we started, we had a final committee that was a collaborative committee, where all of the representatives would come off one committee. And so what I want to say is that in that meeting, we had certain intersections, and one of those intersections was the need for social-emotional learning. That was definitely something that we, through the Culture and Climate and the Curriculum Committee. And so we are fully committed to continuing to work with Culture and Climate and any other groups where curriculum is actually intersecting. I think it's very important.
All right.
Dr. Garcia.
Yes. Oh, thank you. Sure, we'll take one more.
Thank you, Dr. Garcia. I just want to invite all of you to come to the Martin Luther King celebration in January on the 20th, because some of you, I don't have all emails, so I just want to make that announcement. It will start at around 10 o'clock in the morning over at the community center. You all are invited. It's going to be, in fact, Dr. Garcia is going to be one of the speakers, so you don't want to miss that. January 20th, if you, maybe we can get some emails or something so we can send out the flyer. Okay.
We'll be happy to support the distribution of the flyer and the promotion of the event using our email lists and whatever resources we have available to us as a district. So I do have a commitment to get you all out of here at 8:30. Do want to give you a quick moment. A lot of dynamic reports, a lot of exciting ideas, some incredible energy and inspiration and passion on full display, but maybe some folks still have some questions. This is your chance to ring in.
Like when the two schools unify, what's going to happen to one of the campuses?
Well, I think that's part of the work that we're relying on the facilities work group to make a recommendation around. It is possible to have a single school on more than one campus, right? So maybe on one campus, it may be on the other. There may be an upper campus, there may be a lower campus. I think that's part of the conversation that we all need to have together, and I don't think there's been any final decision making or recommendation around that.
So from the cultural climate context, we thought it might be advantageous to use the Bayside MOK. I'm not quite sure whoever has been exposed to Oakland, but they have like the Malanga Art Center with arts of dancing and various arts, and also for the social psychology classes to be provided with one day of mandated electives on Wednesday where the kids go there for social emotional courses that the community also can partake of as well at that site.
Thank you. So I see no questions. I will go ahead and advance. And so I want to take a little bit of time. We started the affinity groups last time, and there was some really amazing testimony that came out of each affinity group. And so I want to acknowledge what this mean. I think a really important aspect of our work as Unification Task Force, as a Unification group. I think it was fair to say that on my interview for this job, every single trustee that I talked to said, you know, probably going to need some healing. What do you think about that? How are we going to do that? And I had a bunch of ideas which I laid out, some of which we're engaging in right now, some of which I weave into every meeting. But I think it's important that we don't stay stuck on what hurt. And it's easy to do. It's easy for us to cling to what wounded us. But that cannot define a unified school. And so what I'd like to invite us to do for the rest of the time that we have, it's about 35 minutes, is to work in our affinity groups and start to identify what else needs to happen so that we can all, as a community, really and truly lean in to the process of healing. And it doesn't mean acting like it didn't happen or forgetting that it happened or saying, oh, well, you know, it's too bad, let's not look at that. But what it does mean is that we're making a collective commitment as a community not to be defined by that trauma, and that for our future not to be defined by that trauma, not to control us. And so I want us to invite us to break into infinity groups again based on how your child identifies, and if you don't have a child, based on how you identify. We had last time African affinity group, an English language learner affinity group, a white affinity group, LGBTQ plus affinity group, and a multiracial affinity group. One word, I don't know, my animation didn't work here, so pardon me.
why? Why do it in affinity groups, particularly based around racial identity of our children? Well, for some really good reasons. But primarily, one of the things that we need to heal from as a community is based around a history of segregation, often based on race in this community. It's not something that just happened over the last 6 years. It's been in place since 1940. Those of you that grew up around here know for a fact there has always been. That freeway is more than a physical divider of these communities. And so affinity groups often create space for conversations that might not occur in a larger group. In the case of racial identity affinity groups, they can often surface experiences and points of view that are different from what would come up in a large group, and that in particular, that can provide a critical perspective that might not otherwise be available to the group if we didn't spend some time in affinity groups. And so the goal of the affinity groups tonight is really to inform the work groups on any critical perspectives that might not otherwise be available, right? Hey, when we have this idea or we put this thing forward, I wonder, are we considering all the perspectives and all the lenses? Does that fit for everyone? Does that land right for everybody? Does the idea of having only one school in one community, does that work for everybody, right? Those are the kinds of things that we would hope maybe to surface through affinity groups. And in particular, also to ensure that a unified school meets the needs of a really diverse community, right? And so sometimes by breaking apart a little bit, it helps us come together. And lastly, as I said with the prior slide, just really to surface any areas that need healing in our community. So I want to invite you again right now to stand up, move your body a little bit, congregate, build community with folks that have children that identify in these different affinity groups. And we'll spend the last 25 minutes of our meeting working together to answer some of these questions. What came up for you after our last affinity group meeting? What do you want the work groups to know and understand? What programs or services does your affinity group need at a unified school? And the million-dollar question for me, unpartially intended, from your affinity group perspective, how can we heal what needs healing in our community? So I want to invite you, one ask that we had, we know that the white affinity group might be larger in numbers. We want to invite you to still have one meeting. If folks will stand up, it looks like maybe we have the beginnings of an African American affinity group right here, over here. We have the beginnings of a multicultural group right here, a mixed race group over here. Maybe we have the beginnings of a white affinity group back here. And so again, the prompts are up there. Please take the time to lean in and answer the questions, and I'll bring us back at about 8:25. Thank you. So I just want to give everyone a time check. It is 8:30, and I want to honor the time we said we would close at this time. So thank you, everyone, for coming in, for your dedication, for your passion. If we want to take just a minute to close the space. If there's anything that we feel like we might want to communicate out to each other, I want to give us a quick opportunity to do that. And I also want to honor the fact that it's 8:30 and some folks need to leave, and so we won't take it personal if that's the decision that you make. So thank you, everyone, for coming tonight. We really appreciate your energy. And if there is any sharing that wants to happen between the groups, I just want to open the space to do that. And if not, that's okay too. We good? We good. All right. Thank you all. We will be sending out updates and follow-ups from tonight's meeting and letting you know what our next steps will be. And I expect that I'll be meeting with my Unification Task Force colleagues here in the not-too-distant future to work all that out. Thank you. We love you. We appreciate you.